I really want to get into property, but I've only got 5 grand.
You can.
Really?
Yeah, have you ever heard of rent-to-rent HMO?
No, what's that?
You rent a large property off a landlord and you rent out each room individually and you keep what's left over.
How do you mean?
So say for example you've got a landlord with a 6-bedroom house and he wants 1,500 a month rent. You pay him that rent, then you pay the council tax, cleaners, Wi-Fi bills, that's about 500 a month, and you can rent out each room for about £500 a month. That leaves you with £1,000 a month profit.
I swear. And how much does it cost to set one of these up?
You need about £1,000 to set up your company and get compliant, and then about £3 to £4,000 to take on the deal.
Yeah, I mean, rent to rent and rent service accommodation has become very popular, and it certainly has its place in the market, but I think that some of those figures are quite misleading in the sense of set the company up for £1,000 and a few £1,000s to set the HMO up. Just £1,000 a room for the bed, for the mattress, for the bedside tables, the dressers, the wardrobes, it's going to cost you more than £1,000 a room. They're saying that there's 6 rooms there. Then you've got the kitchen that you probably need to refurbish in terms of a 6-bedroom property would probably dictate 2 cookers, 2 fridges, 2 hobs, 2 extractors, etc. if you were doing it properly. And then the cost to run that property, the income there is based on 100% occupancy probably from what they're saying. What happens if you're only 60% occupied? Then you're losing money because your rent and your fixed costs are all exactly the same, but you'll lose money on a monthly basis. If you enter into a 6-month AST with that landlord, then you would probably get to the end of that 6-month AST and you can come out of that. Or the landlord would take the property back from you and then they would rent it as a HMO themselves as well. And then all of the costs that you put into that property you probably not get back in terms of profit over that 6-month period. So therefore you'd want to enter into a longer lease with that landlord. Maybe you enter into a 1-year, 2-year, 3-year, 4-year lease. But then if you are legally obliged to carry on with that lease and you're making a loss for all of those months all the way through the process, that is where rent to rent and rent service accommodation strategies do come a little bit unstuck. So lots of rules and regulations, lots of things to think about as you go into that, but get somebody who's been there and done it before to advise you on doing something like that because it is fraught with issues.